From the nation's capital, Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce. A weekly discussion about the federal issues most important to Nevada. And now, from Washington, D.C., here's Marilee Joyce.
Good day to you. I'm Marilee Joyce, and this is Eye on Washington, the only statewide Nevada news program produced in Washington, D.C. Every week, Eye on Washington takes you straight to Capitol Hill for a discussion with Nevada's delegation and other leaders about the federal matters that matter to you. Today's topic, the ripple effect of dropping out of high school. We'll tell you what poor graduation rates mean to Nevada economy and what needs to be done in Washington and in the state to turn things around. My very special guest today is Mr. Phillip Lovell, the Vice President for Federal Advocacy of the Washington, D.C.-based Alliance for Excellent Education. It's an advocacy organization focused on improving high school graduation rates across the country. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Although slightly up from 2010, Nevada still has abysmal graduation rates. Last year, more than a third of the state's high school students dropped out of school. And today on Eye on Washington, we'll tell you how graduation rates affect the economy. We'll find out why more than half of Nevada schools are considered poor performers. And we'll ask my guest what needs to be done by congressional and state leaders to ensure more students will earn a diploma. Well, let's begin with the link between education and the economy. The recent economic downturn that continues to plague Nevada most profoundly affects those with the least education. In 2011, according to my guest group, the unemployment rate among individuals without a high school diploma was more than 3 times the rate of those with a bachelor's degree or higher. In Nevada, statistics are sobering. An estimated 23,900 students dropped out from the class of 2010. The Alliance conducted a study of what could have meant if to the Nevada economy if just 1,000 of those students would have graduated. It said that combined, if these 1,000 new likely students had been graduates, they likely would earn $9 million a year, spend $1.1 million each year purchasing vehicles, support 60 new jobs in Nevada, increase the gross state product by $11 million, and pour an additional $700,000 into state coffers, all through their increased spending and investment. So it should come as no surprise that groups like the Alliance for Excellent Education, which focus on upping the graduation rate, say addressing the high school dropout crisis is a key strategy for economic growth. In fact, in the Nevada High School section of the Alliance website, a bold blue headline near the top of the page says, "The best economic stimulus package is a high school diploma." And Mr. Lovell, your stats say that on average, a high school graduation rate earns $6,237 more each year than a high school rate. And in this recession, that assumes the dropout gets a job in the first place.
No, that's exactly right. The bottom line is this. Education is the key to the economy nationwide, and it's really the key for individuals. If you only want to make in Nevada, say $11,000 a year, go ahead and drop out of school. If you'd like to make $52,000 a year, you might want to stay in school, go to college, get that 4-year degree.
And what about for the higher wage jobs? It seems now that if you don't have at least a little knowledge in some post-secondary education and maybe some tech skills that you're maybe and other types of things you're going to learn in college, it's going to be a lot harder to get a good job. It's certainly a good paying one.
That's exactly right, especially in today's economy and in the economy of the future. Back in the 70s, about a third of jobs were available to people who dropped out of high school. So if we had a huge dropout issue then, which we did, it wasn't that big of an issue for the global economy or for the economy of the country because those people were employable. By 2018, only 10% of the nation's jobs will be available to people with that level of education who've dropped out of school. Put another way, the number of jobs requiring post-secondary education has doubled in the last 40 years. Economists have said that by 2018, 2/3 of jobs will require some type of post-secondary education, and we're on schedule to be 3 million post-secondary degrees short. So policymakers and individuals have the decision to make. Are we going to increase our level of education and continue to have the standard of living that we have now? Or if we stay on the path towards mediocre education, our standard of living is really jeopardized.
I did a lot of research on what the Alliance specifically is saying about Nevada and what you're suggesting for Nevada, offering for that state. And you said, especially in Nevada, where less than half of the students are graduating now. You've said Nevada has got to view education reform as crucial to strengthening the economy, and you've really tied those two together, and especially in this recessionary time.
That's definitely right. There's no long-term economic outlook for Nevada, or the country for that matter, but especially Nevada, that doesn't see education as a key strategy towards strengthening the economy. When you look at the statistics in Nevada, you don't get a very great picture. You see, Nevada has the lowest graduation rate of any state in the country. There's no way that Nevada is going to, and couple that with Nevada has the highest unemployment rate. So you're not going to see a dramatic long-term shift in Nevada's economy without strengthening the education for the state students.
When you're living in a state worst off in this recession, it's interesting to contemplate what might have been spent at failed or struggling businesses had more students graduated.
That's very true. About 2/3 of the nation's economy is driven by consumption, what we buy. So whether it's shoes, clothes, what have you. And nationwide, dropouts make about $9 an hour compared to high school graduates. They make about $25 an hour. So what do we want, a $9 economy or a $25 economy? Well, obviously we want the $25 economy, but we have to educate ourselves to get there.
And we're going to find out what the Alliance says needs to be done. And when we return, just what is a dropout factory? And why are so many of them in Nevada? That's next.
You're watching Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, brought to you by the National Mining Association, Caesars Entertainment, NV Energy, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, Western Lithium Corporation, the Nevada Mining Association, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, and Skyline Restaurant and Casino.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of Nevada's low high school graduation rate and its effect on both the dropouts and on the state. My guest today is Phillip Lovell, the Vice President for Federal Advocacy of the Washington, D.C.-based Alliance for Excellent Education. Imagine bringing home a report card with 4 Fs, 2 Ds, and a C-. Well, those are Nevada's most recent marks in an annual education report. The Nevada Children's Report Card, published biannually by the Children's Advocacy Alliance, is rough news for those concerned with the state's education system. Let's look at the numbers. Student achievement gets a D-. Money per pupil gets an F. Pupil to teacher ratio, F. High school violence, C-. Dating violence, D+. Fear of violence, F, and adding up to a high school dropout rate of F. And guess what that leads to? The worst graduation rate in the country. Just over 44% of Nevada high schoolers graduated last year. Meanwhile, my guest group says that 10% of all high schools produce more than 40% of all the nation's dropouts. In education circles, these schools are referred to as dropout factories, defined as having less than 60% of freshmen progress to the senior year on time. A poor progression rate is a strong predictor of the dropout rate. And Mr. Lovell, the Alliance reports that almost 30% of Nevada schools are dropout factories. Of the 98 federally reported high schools there, fully 31 get this distinction.
That's right. And, listening to the statistics that you were just stating, it's the reason why these dropout factories, as we refer to them, are schools that are in need of a whole lot of help. They need real wholesale change, whole school reform. They need changes in the instruction. They need changes often in the amount of time spent on instruction. They need professional development for their teachers. And certainly in Nevada, one might say that there is a rather large opportunity for change to make things better for the state students.
You know, we're going to talk solutions in our next segment, but I want to focus for a minute on the kind of the who, the where, the why. Who is dropping out? Is there a dropout type?
Oh, sure. Well, I think it's important just to look at the demographics in Nevada and how they've changed, as I think that this has something to do with the dropout situation in the state. Looking back 8-10 years or so, the number of students in Nevada's public schools has increased by 55,000. Combine that with the shift in the economy, there are actually 100,000 more low-income kids. There are more homeless students. Look at, in terms of race, ethnicity, 8 years ago, 30% of the state's student population were Hispanic. Today, that's 40%. So there are a whole lot of demographic shifts happening within the school system. When you combine that with that, say, state funding, which has actually gone down by 4% in the last 5 years, the situation isn't that great. So what does a dropout look like? There certainly isn't one defining characteristic that I'd say all dropouts have, but they're often low income, they're often students of color, they're often coming from schools that are not well supported by the community, and these are schools and students that need a lot of help. I would say this though, no dropout factory has to stay a dropout factory, and every dropout should have the opportunity to go back to school and to get their education. So I guess if there is one thing in common, I would say among all dropouts and all dropout factories, is that they don't have to be that way.
That kind of answers the who and the where. I was going to ask, is there kind of a geographic area, but it's more where these types of, where these groups are located?
Where is actually very important, because some people think that it's just an urban problem, and it's not. About a fifth of the nation's dropout factories are in rural areas. So they're in pretty much every state, every congressional district. Certainly they're concentrated in urban areas and often in the South, but certainly Nevada has its large share of dropout factories as well.
Quickly before we run out of time in this segment, the why, Mr. Lovell, are there top reasons students give for why they drop out of school?
Probably the number one reason that students give why they drop out is because they're disengaged. Really, I think it's a combination of disengagement. They're just not interested in what school has to offer them. But there's also, they perform poorly academically. And if you're performing poorly academically, you're not really encouraged to try harder. It doesn't make you feel good to do bad. So it's this cycle of poor performance, disengagement. It builds up over time. People don't decide to drop out in the 10th grade out of nowhere. It's typically part of a progression of disengagement that takes place over a number of years.
And we're going to get some answers to what needs to be done in just a minute when we return. What my guest says needs to happen on the Hill and in the state to help every Nevada high schooler reach graduation day. That's right after
this. Every day, thousands of people in northern Nevada don't get enough to eat. 1 out of 5 children in northern Nevada go to bed hungry every night. But you can do something about it. Catholic Community Services of Northern Nevada has been providing help and creating hope in our community for more than 65 years. By donating food, time, or money, you can make a difference in a hungry person's life. When you make your generous donation to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, you're helping to fight the scourge of hunger in northern Nevada. In these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to help those less fortunate. To find out how you can donate to St. Vincent's Dining Room and St. Vincent's Food Pantry, call, click, or stop by, and together we can end hunger in northern Nevada.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
This girl is very pretty. It's inciting feelings of jealousy in me. We should pick on her.
I'm insecure about some things, so I think we should put some me stuff on here. Maybe even some lies, too.
Yeah. I just want to be accepted by you both. So I'm going to send this to my friends so they think I'm cool.
Kids bully for all kinds of reasons. None of them are good. Find ways to get involved at flipthescriptnow.org.
How will new energy technology make our lives better? Will geothermal, wind, and solar energy be a bigger part of our future? Yes. And soon it will all be in our backyard. Learn more at nvenergy.com.
And welcome back to Eye on Washington, our discussion of the impact of dropouts on the economy. We've been visiting with Phillip Lovell, the Vice President of Federal Advocacy of the Washington, D.C.-based Alliance for Excellent Education. So just what is the Alliance for Excellent Education? This Washington, D.C.-based national policy and advocacy organization works to improve national and federal policy so that all students can achieve at high school academic levels and graduate from high school. And not just graduate, but graduate ready for success in college, work, and society. They focus on America's 6 million most at-risk secondary school students, those most likely to drop out or to graduate unprepared for a productive future. Among solutions recommended by the Alliance, an investment commitment at all levels of government, a focus on literacy, effective teacher training, personalizing the high school experience according to student interests and needs, a college preparatory curriculum to help students transition from high school to college, and accountability for low-performing schools. And on the federal level, holding states, districts, and schools accountable for graduating all students from high school and getting them ready for college and careers, shifting away from one-size-fits-all college school improvement system prescribed by the federal government to one tailored to unique needs of low-performing middle and high schools, and strengthening the federal investment in those schools. And Mr. Lovell, your recommendations also cite a lot of things you'd like to see from the administration and from the Congress. Tell us about those.
No doubt. Number one thing that the federal government can do is to pass the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Basically, Congress needs to revise and renew what was passed several years ago, now known as No Child Left Behind. We need to see a much stronger emphasis on the nation's lowest performing high schools. If a school has a graduation rate below 60%, that's unacceptable, and real change is needed to make those schools better. We also need to see stronger investments in the nation's high schools. Like you said, we can pinpoint this problem. We know that about 12% of the nation's high schools produce 40% of the nation's dropouts. This is an identifiable problem. We know solutions. We can invest and make it happen. Sure. The other thing we need to do is to make sure that we're holding everyone's feet to the fire with this problem. We need strong graduation rate accountability. We can have creative math, so to speak, to mask graduation rates. It's been done before. Under policy that's now being implemented through the Department of Education, through waivers, we're seeing some creative math come back into play, and we need to see just we need to know how many students are graduating in 4 years, and we need to be holding all schools accountable for that.
Yeah, we've had, of course, members of the Nevada congressional delegation on this show many times to talk about the situation in Nevada, both just kind of the overall, the report card stuff we talked about, graduation rates and et cetera. How do you work with congressional leaders in Nevada and elsewhere in shaping policies that you hope ultimately would lead to the higher graduation rates?
Well, sure. Nevada has certainly a very important delegation with Senate Majority Leader coming from Nevada, and also representation on the House committee that has jurisdiction over education. So so Nevada has influence both in the House and in the Senate. It's really important that that Congress move on the policy legislation. It's also really important that Congress continue to provide funding for reform. We don't just need funding for the status quo. We need to make sure that funding is in place to drive reform. And right now, Congress is facing sequestration, which I imagine has been a topic on the show. The looming across-the-board cuts would have a serious impact on funding across the country and in Nevada. We're talking about a $4 billion reduction to the Department of Education. Nevada gets a lot of money from the federal government.
And when we return, what you can do to help keep our students in school and on the path to graduation. That's coming up next.
All of us at Caesars Entertainment have something we want to say.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
We don't want you to gamble if you've had too much to drink.
You shouldn't gamble if you're lonely or depressed.
And if you're under 21, you're not allowed to play.
No, no, no.
No matter which of our casinos you come to, our message is always the same.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly.
Play responsibly. We know you're coming to our casinos to have a good time, and we always want you to leave feeling like you did.
America's minerals have made us a nation of self-reliant dreamers, shaping our world and the endless ways we enjoy it. But red tape often forces us to import more than half the minerals we depend on. Minerals we already have. We don't import our dreams. Shouldn't that go for our minerals too? The National Mining Association. Learn more at nma.org.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
You already watch Eye on Washington with Marilee Joyce, Nevada's only statewide program produced in Washington, D.C. But for even more news from Capitol Hill that affects you, your family, and your business, you need to read Nevada's Washington Watch, our online newsletter. In-depth reporting on federal efforts that impact you. Our exclusive Inside the Beltway column, putting a microscope on Nevada's congressional delegation. Guest editorials about what Nevada needs from the Hill. Nevada's Washington Watch, your watch on Washington. Subscribe today at nevadaswashingtonwatch.com.
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And we are back with our closing segment of Eye on Washington. Mr. Lovell, the Alliance has a lot of suggestions for congresspersons, for educators, for advocacy organizations on way to up the graduation rates. But the viewers and listeners of this statewide show in Nevada, what can they do to help the cause?
Well, they can encourage their policymakers to keep education a priority and to keep the focus on the lowest performing high schools. I encourage people to really keep a focus on high schools because one might think that it's easier to help students when they're younger and then we sort of forget about them, or we think that it's too hard to help kids as they get older. They get louder, they behave, a bit worse, but high school is the last chance for us to support these kids before they turn 18, before hopefully they can go to college. We have to make sure that they graduate from high school ready for college, ready for careers.
For those looking to get involved, I know that they can go to the Alliance site. It's www.all4ed, and the 4 is a number, all4ed.org. What are they going to find there?
They will find a ton of information. If you want to watch a video to learn more about education, you can watch one of our webinars. If you'd like to read more, you've got a ton of reports on a variety of topics.
Quickly as we're ending today, when you consider again Nevada's graduation rate, slightly improved, but certainly nowhere where we want it to be, what would you say to the student considering leaving school and the parent and our legislators? What's your final message today?
To the student, don't do it if you want to make enough money to support yourself or your family. Sure. To the policymaker, you've got to keep a focus on the lowest performing high schools, and you've got to continue to provide federal support, and you've got to continue to provide support at the state and local level as well. The parent? To the parent, keep on your kids. When kids don't show up to school, the parent should know about it, and the parent should make sure the kid goes to school.
We'll leave it there, Mr. Lovell. Thanks for being here. I hope we'll have you on several months from now or a year from now with some better numbers.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much. That does wrap up today's Eye on Washington. But we're always here for you, providing all the top federal news that Nevadans need to know. Just visit our website, joycecommunications.com. There you can subscribe to our Nevada's Washington Watch newsletter. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and check out our poll offerings and more federal issues that impact Nevada while you're on our site. Thanks for joining us on Eye on Washington today. I'm Marilee Joyce in Washington. Have a good day.